This is Dr. Red, chiropractic physician with Red River Health and Wellness. Are you suffering with fatigue, brain fog, headaches, intestinal issues, weight gain, and you haven't been able to find any answers?
I was struggling with constantly being hot, struggling with not sleeping, being able to fall asleep, stay asleep, or even wake up the next morning. I had very high levels of inflammation and memory loss. Memory loss was the scariest part.
Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
The sleep improved, my memory's coming back. Every time I remember something, I still get really excited. I go walking every morning now, which I've never done before. I've always really wanted to be that type of person that wakes up early enough to enjoy the sunrise. I get to do that every morning now.
Our goal is to teach you and educate you so you know how to manage your condition a lot more effectively and you know what to do and what not to do for the rest of your life.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today. KVNU.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Go! Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
And we welcome you to the show on a beautiful Saturday morning as we're enjoying some sunshine. Temperatures right now 52. It hit 45 this morning. And, each afternoon we've had this chance of isolated showers and thunderstorms, and it's brought some moisture to the valley in some areas while others haven't gotten a drop.
Dry.
So, and that's what it's looking like over the next few days, that we'll just continue to see this chance of some
Cooler
showers.
temperatures, it's like high 70s. No frost. It doesn't.
No complaints.
Doesn't get any better. Yeah.
And for how many weeks had we been trying to predict that hopefully we weren't going to see any more frost? And I think now we pretty much can lay our cards out and say we're done.
In our career at Anderson's, and this goes back before we owned, when my parents were still there, I can think of 2 Mays, including this year, we didn't have frost twice. And probably 35 years.
And, after the winter we had, that just seems odd.
It's so odd. Because it was like we had cold and snow,
for so long.
And then it finally stopped, and then no frost.
Yeah.
It's like, go figure. But it looks like our river has peaked.
Yeah.
So Logan River, it looks like it's peaked, and it's going to be full. It's going to be full for a while, but it doesn't look like it's going to crest again.
Yeah.
And so, we'll take that water. I heard the other day that Lake Powell's going up 1.5 feet every day.
Can you imagine that?
1.5 feet every day. That is so much water. It's crazy. So, but we won't fill Lake Powell up this year, but we'll get a good start on it.
Yeah.
And we have another wet year next year, which is likely. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
And by next year, maybe I'll have forgotten how many times I had to shovel my driveway, and I'll be okay with that.
We don't talk about the S word at our house because it was so
every day it's
overwhelming this year.
Times.
Yeah, it's just like it just never stopped. So, but it's beautiful outside. The sky is blue. The sun is shining. It's a great day to be out gardening. I've been working in my garden all week this week, just trying to get stuff done. So, sprayed my patio last night. And our extra parking spot where there's a little bit of gravel and some pavers, and in front of the barn and in the orchard to try and control all the weeds that are going crazy right now. So did a nice combination of Kills All Extended and put a little bit of Decimate in there as well too, because it helps with some of the broadleaf, like Morning Glory, that the Kills-All won't quite get. But then it has the pre-emergent in there to prevent all the new weeds from coming up. Yeah, so I was very, very careful. And what I do is I get my extra hose out, and I extend the hose out as far as it will possibly go in my yard so I can hit the furthest back areas. And then as I do that hillside and I do that area up around the shed, I'll pull the hose back so it doesn't drag through the Kills-All, and then
spread it through your
exactly lawn. And then I'll go and I'll hit the patio and just kind of adjust the hose as you go, so you don't ever pick up that extra. And then if I end up walking in it by accident, I make sure not to walk on the lawn or walk in the flower bed. So I'll be very careful where I'm walking, because I know at some point I'm probably gonna like step in it, and then it's on my shoes, and then I don't want to like leave footprints on my lawn that have dead spots.
See these little footprints all the way across your lawn.
But that one application will control the weeds that are there already. Burr buttercup, puncture vine, morning glory, grasses, all that stuff. That will kill all that, and then prevent new ones from coming for the rest of the year. It's so nice. It's super effective. Yeah, it's really, really good. But Will's going to take a second to answer some phone calls. If you'd like to call in and join us on the show, 753-5868, 753-KVNU, or 1-800-369-5868. A lot happening at Anderson Seed. We've got some great specials on all kinds of plants right now. I just got a number of truckloads of shrubs and trees in, so we're like really, really well stocked for trees and shrubs and perennials. The perennials are just looking amazing. We are starting to run low on some vegetables and flowers because a lot of the growers are just kind of running out of stuff. Just don't have it. So we've got a lot of varieties left, but it might not be exactly the variety that you're looking for, and we cannot guarantee whether we're going to get more variety of stuff. There's still plants available, but there's not as many varieties to choose from. So yeah.
Okay,
but we do have a caller to start the show.
Let's start off the show going out to Wellsville, where Zach is holding on the line. Zach, welcome to the Garden Guide on this Saturday morning.
Hey, Will. Hey, Mark. What's up?
Hey, we are just super excited to be here this morning, and
beautiful day.
Weather's looking great. Can hardly wait to get out there.
Hey, I got some bad news for you, Mark. If you put footprints across your lawn, they're going to know it's you. You can't blame it on the kids.
Exactly.
Very true.
So that's why we got to be so careful with that. So,
all right. Hey, I got some questions for you. Out here in Wellsville, we got some weird stuff going on. I got a nectarine, peach, and a couple of cherry trees. They're really sparse on leaves. They look healthy, all the leaves that have come out.
Right.
There ended up not being any blossoms on them.
Exactly.
And all the buds don't look like they're doing anything. Is there anything I can do at this point? Is there a reason that happened, just such a late start to the season?
Yes. It was the temperatures in February when it went 20 below, and probably in Wellsville you were like 30 below for a couple days. And I'm excited that your trees did not just completely die, because that's what's happened for a lot of people in the valley. That's just cold enough temperatures it can get peaches and cherries and nectarines, and so you got to be, very, very selective in the locations where you put them, where they're a little bit more protected. And so what I would do at this point is maybe a little bit more selective pruning, kind of prune back some of the spots that really look like they are not going to come out, and it will encourage more leaf production, so you'll get more to fill in. And then use a product like Boomerang or Kangaroots on them, so as you can mix it up in water the trees with it. It'll really kind of kick-start the root system, so it'll put out a whole bunch of new root hairs. As those little fine root hairs pick up water and nutrient, it's going to just bring it right to the tree, and you'll see better foliage production on the tree. But that cold temperature just really did some damage, and I'm in a really well protected spot over in Logan, and we lost all of our flower buds, like every single one of them. So I don't, like my peaches and nectarines and apricots, if there were 3 flowers on each one, I'll treat you. And they just, every flower bud just was a frozen black little crispy critter, and they've leafed out really well, so my trees look really healthy and good. But it sounds like yours are struggling a little bit, and that is the temperature difference between Logan and Wellsville.
Okay, that's good information.
Yeah.
One question, so that's a good idea on the boomerang or kangaroo roots. I'll do that.
Yep, that'll really help.
As far as them not blooming, do I need to fertilize? So I fertilized them. I used your fertilizer, the citrus tree one.
Oh, yeah,
Them, 5 or 6 weeks ago. Do I need to do the second application if I'm not going to get fruit this year?
That will last for 3 months, so you should be great. I don't think you'll need to do it again. And the boomerang doesn't have a whole lot of major nutrients in there. It's got a little bit, but all those beneficial microbes and microorganisms in there are going to help decompose and pre-digest the nutrient that you did put out there and make it available to the tree as well, too. So they will work in conjunction very nicely without overdoing it for your trees. Yeah, that should work perfect.
Perfect. And then just one last related thing.
Yeah.
So I have blackberries, a couple rows of blackberries in the back and a couple on the side of my house.
Yeah.
And the ones that I pruned back from last year, the stems that give berries this year,
right?
They're getting leaves down lower, but the upper parts are not. Should I cut those off if they're not looking good, or do I give them a little more time to leaf out, or?
Did a little bit of grape pruning for one of my friends yesterday, and we just left them a little longer than normal to make sure the stuff wasn't dead, because it looked like it was totally dead. And she was afraid like most of her grape was gone, and we left it an extra week, and then all of a sudden it just leafed out. It made it a lot easier to prune. So you are definitely welcome to wait and see how they come along, because sometimes those canes look like they're not going to make it. But the parts that look like they're completely gone, to get in there and start pruning, because the more you prune those, the more they're going to bush out and go. So I think you're probably good either way. But yeah, seriously, pruning that grape. There were parts of it that I would have just pruned out a couple weeks ago that just looked like they were totally dead, and sure enough, they had leaves all over them when I went.
Yeah,
and looked at them.
Grapes are tricky that way.
Yep.
They don't show any life until they do.
They don't want to cooperate sometimes. So, all right.
All right. Well, thanks, Mark. Thanks, Will, for hosting the show today. That was useful advice.
No worries.
And you're not the only one, Zach. I'm in an area very similar to Mark, only we have a south-facing yard, and it just got piled with snow and wind. And, yeah, we were looking at our peach tree and our apricot tree.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. You can see the buds. They started, and then all of a sudden it was like, I'm not doing this, and it stopped. So
Exactly. So thanks for calling in, Zach.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right.
And that opens up the phone lines, 753-5868 or 1-800-369-5868. If you have a question for Mark, as we're talking fruit trees, and really this is the weekend to plant, too. If you haven't gotten your garden planted yet, you can get it done.
So I was outside this week planting my tomatoes, and we got, we got beans planted, we got tomatoes planted. I'm going to try and finish up the peppers tonight or this weekend. We'll see what happens. And we got carrots, beets, chard planted as well, too. Cucumbers. Got to water the cucumbers. They need a little drink. Reminding myself what needs to be done. But we're going to get our corn planted, and squashes, melons, and cucumbers are all going in this week as well too. So it's a great time to get out there and do some planting. And there's a couple things I do to really get my tomatoes to take off. And so we could talk about our tomato kind of, we call it our magic formula on making the tomatoes go like crazy. So that's definitely something we can talk about.
And if no one's ever seen your tomato plants,
they're just,
they could be Christmas trees.
They're massive.
They're that huge. I know a couple of years ago when we were out there for the Christmas winter open house, we had one near the Santa Claus, and it was huge. I've never seen a tomato plant so big. And it was in a pot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In planters. So yep. So we did that. So, but we got a couple phone calls.
We do.
Yeah.
Have another call, and so let's go back out to the phone lines. Brian is joining us on the line from the Logan Iris Society. Brian, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mark. I'm doing great.
Great.
I hope everybody's going to come out to the Iris show and see the iris today.
I was going to say you've had some festivities going on the last couple of days. Was there some judging going on yesterday?
Oh, yeah. We had judging going on yesterday morning, and then the show went until 7, and we're open at 9 a.m. this morning and go until 4 p.m. We are at Cache Valley Bible Fellowship at 1488 North 200 West in Logan. So it's right where you turn into RSM. We're right behind the DI.
Oh, very good. Very good.
It's a nice atrium. It's lots of light, and we've got the most flowers we've had in a number of years. So we had some folks from Salt Lake that brought their iris up as well.
Cool.
So it's a great show, and it smells really good when you walk in.
Oh, I'll bet it does. I know that smell. That is awesome. So you say you're going until say 4:00 today?
Till 4:00, and you'll see iris that you've never seen before. If you just thought iris were purple and yellow, no. I mean, these have got ruffles, these have got lace, these have got almost red, but not quite there yet. It's kind of a rusty red.
Awesome.
And they're huge blossoms, they're small blossoms, there are color combinations that you just never thought were possible with iris. But the hybridizing over the last 10 to 15 years has really ramped up.
Done some cool stuff. So is this just come and look, or can you like possibly pick up a few varieties as well too?
No, this is come and look.
This is come and look.
We have an iris sale, which is the last Wednesday of July.
Okay.
And that'll be at Elk Ridge Park in North Logan. And we bring all of our iris that we grow in our own gardens, and we'll sell at that sale.
Okay.
And you don't have to be a member of the club to get in, but you do get in a half an hour earlier if you're a member of the club. So we suggest that if you like iris, join the Logan Iris Society. It's $7.50.
So you get special access.
Your membership.
You get special access to the pre-sale. Huh? This is like a software introduction, right? Pre-sale access for an extra $50. No.
Well, and some of these iris, there's some varieties that were introduced this year. They're $75.
Ooh.
And the price goes down as you get away from their year of introduction. But some of those will be at our sale, and they might cost you $10 or $15 rather than $75.
Awesome. And July is the right time to do it, because that's the time you should be digging your iris up and splitting them and separating and replanting.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's perfect timing.
Yeah, most don't understand that iris need to be divided when they're dormant. And that brings up something else. We'll have a digging and dividing demonstration probably the third week of July, where it's free. Anybody can come.
Nice.
You'll come help us dig up a clump and replant it, and then you'll get to take home a rhizome.
Nice.
So follow us on Facebook, and you'll get the notification for when that will be.
That sounds like a great event today, Brian, and a lot of wonderful iris to come and take a look at, different colors, different styles, and go be blown away by the beautiful iris.
Oh, iris are just awesome. They're drought tolerant. They don't like to have wet feet, of course.
Yeah.
They do require about 6 to 8 hours of sun a day or more, but they're just an awesome flower. I wish they stayed on a little longer,
I know,
but you could get the medians, the little dwarf ones, the reticulata come on usually in March when we don't have 2.5 feet of snow on the ground.
Early.
And spurias will take you to about the third week of June. So you could have iris for several different months.
Yeah, exactly. That's my only complaint about the iris is I wish they would go like 2 more weeks.
Well, at least the flowers stay on longer. The old historics, they're maybe there for a day, 2 at the most. Where nowadays the substance is so thick, they're 3 to 4 days.
They hold up better. Yeah.
Get a little bit longer. Yep.
Hey, that's great. That's great. Brian, thanks so much for calling this morning and sharing that information with us.
You're welcome. Thanks, Mark. Hope to see everybody there today.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you. Have a great day.
Again, that's taking place
Right.
today. And appreciate Brian calling in.
Very cool. And it is
Logan Iris Society.
It is really fun to see all the iris when they're in blue, and they've been so gorgeous this year, so pretty. So yeah, great option. So more phone calls.
We do, and phone lines are open 753-5868 1-800-369-5868. Let's go back out to Nancy, who's joining us on the line from Lewiston. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions I need to confirm with Mark on Morning Glory, but I don't want to kill my flowers. So what's the best thing to use?
Great question. So I was out spraying last night, had a little bit of Morning Glory sneaking up in parts of my yard, And if you want to be very, very selective and very careful not to bother your other plants, I use Decimate from Fertilome. Now, the Decimate has been around for a long time. It's actually a Bayer product that they came out with about not quite 30 years ago, probably more closer to 25 years ago, and a really amazing product. It works similarly to Roundup, but it is not the same product. It's very different from the Roundup. It works quicker. It works on broadleaf weeds better, so it really takes out morning glory very nicely, and it biodegrades very quickly out of the soil. So where you spray, you can plant right back in that area 24 to 48 hours after you've sprayed. So it breaks down really, really quickly. And it's a really great option for a Roundup alternative, and it will only kill what you spray it on. So if you're very careful, you could just go in around your desirable plants and hit the morning glory. And as long as you don't get any overspray over onto your other plants, that will work great. And I've done that on multiple occasions. On the lawn, I use the Weed Free Zone. It really does a great job on the morning glory and all the other broadleaf weeds. But when I start to get into areas where I'm afraid I could damage some of the surrounding plants, I switch to the Decimate because it's much more strategic, where I can just isolate individual plants and kill those with it.
Okay, but it won't kill my flowers if I use the Decimate?
If you use the Decimate and you can keep it from not touching your flowers, it won't bother your flowers, even if they're 2 inches away from the weed that you sprayed. So what I will do is I will cut a piece of cardboard, a large piece of cardboard, and put a little handle in it so I can put it between the plants that I want to keep and the ones that I want to kill, and you can spray right up to that cardboard, and it keeps the spray from drifting over onto your nearby plants, and that works really, really well with the Decimate. You can be very, very, very selective of what you spray, and the Decimate will only kill the green leafy plants that you spray it on.
Okay, and then just one other question. Can I mix Roundup and Weed Free Zone?
Absolutely. Yeah, because the Weed Free Zone will kill things that the Roundup just won't quite get. Roundup is really effective on grasses, and as you get into some of the harder to kill broadleaf weeds like morning glory, it just makes them look sick, but it doesn't really finish them off, and that's because of the extra energy that they've got stored down in the root system, because they have like really big roots, and the Weed Free Zone will work on a different level, and so it will take out those broadleaf weeds that the Roundup just doesn't quite get. But the combination of the two is super effective because they have two different modes of operation, and so they will together take out some of the weeds that by themselves they wouldn't be able to get completely. So very effective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks for calling this morning, Nancy. You have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
All right.
You too.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Phone lines are open at 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. We'll have our bottom of the hour news break coming up in about 2.5 minutes, but time to take another call as Vicky's joining us on the line from Smithfield. Welcome to the show, Vicky.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey, I was wondering, I have a friend, she's planted begonias in the hanging pots.
Yeah.
And she even has like a little drainage at the bottom, but they just look like they're dead, like they've been overwatered, and it won't drain out. So
do you know what kind of soil?
I was wondering if she needs to just buy a new.
Yeah. Do you know what kind of soil she used?
Pardon?
Do you know what kind of soil she used?
No.
No. So the begonias like to be in shaded locations, and they can handle a little more of a moist location, but they do like really good drainage. So I would double check and make sure that the pot's draining out properly so that when it gets watered, the excess water drains out. You want to have a fairly porous soil so that when you do water, the excess water does drain out. And then if she wants to try and resurrect those, just make sure they are able to dry out in between waterings, and right now it has been cooler and it has been a little bit more wet, and so the stuff is staying wet a lot longer than it normally would. So that's a possibility. If they're really far gone, she may want to put some new ones in or get a new basket or something. Without seeing them, I can't tell you for sure if they're like salvageable or if they're not. But I would start with
she was thinking about just getting a new basket,
a new one,
where it will drain around the whole thing.
Yeah, it needs to drain out properly, and then using a root stimulator type product or boomerang. I think the boomerang would be excellent. We talked about that with Zach to start off the show. Boomerang's great for helping plants that have been damaged to come back. So it's a comeback formula. So plants that have been damaged or stressed or really struggling, the boomerang is great to revive those. And we have revived many a hanging basket with it that other people thought they would just throw away. So it's a really great product, Vicki.
All right. Is it okay to plant our tomatoes now?
I planted my tomatoes this week, and I'm going to plant a couple more this weekend, and my peppers as well too. 10-day forecast looks like no frost, no snow. So we are good to go. Yeah. No. Yeah. And we don't say the S word anymore on the show. So
No.
So, all right, Vicki.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for calling this morning. You have a wonderful weekend.
Yep. Have a good day.
All right. You too.
And speaking of tomatoes, we'll talk about secret formula for planting tomatoes.
My tomato secret formula. And then the other thing we got to talk about is we took all the pansies out on Center Street and put the summer flowers in. So we have a special today on pansies. So I've got some gorgeous clearance pansies if you want to come get some pansies. And pansies need a shady location now. So they're full sun until it turns hot. And then when we get summertime, then they can go in the shade. So you just move them to a new location. So I have some gorgeous pansies that need a new home that we will sell for a really great price. Yeah, but we planted all the stuff on Center Street. So if you want to know how to make your plants look as beautiful as the ones that were on Center Street last year, we'll talk about that in the second half of the show as well too. Yeah.
And we can take more of your phone calls at 753-5868 or 1-800-369-5868. You're listening to The Garden Guide here on KVNU.
Bill Walter, KVNU News. An event this Monday night, June 5th, will kick off the statewide Special Olympics Torch Run and will be held from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. at Logan's Merlin Olsen Park. On KVNU's For the People program this past week, one of the founders of the Cache Valley leg of the Torch Run, Helene Salanoa from the Cache County Sheriff's Office, told us what's involved.
We get together with the Special Olympic athletes in the valley, and we do a short run. We used to do it from like the North Walmart to the South Walmart, but we've then condensed it in the last couple years. But we usually get law enforcement. So it's a law enforcement torch run for Special Olympics.
She said the Cache County Sheriff's Office hosts it every year. Salanoa said the public is invited to come and participate by buying a T-shirt and being on the sideline supporting the runners as the deadline to enter the run has come and gone. And you can get more information on the Facebook page, Cache County Special Olympics Torch Run. A Utah-based bus company says the state of Nevada has declared war on its interstate travel services, seized one of its commercial vans, and falsely accused it of operating unsafe vehicles. Nevada transportation officials argue that Salt Lake Express is engaged in a legal scheme to evade regulation of its bus lines within the state by making quick trips across the California border at stops with no customers during treks to Las Vegas. Over the weekend, partly cloudy skies, a 20 to 30% chance of storms, highs in the mid-70s. For the latest news, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
From ABC Sports, I'm Mark Remillard. Game 1 of the Yankees series against the Dodgers in L.A. last night. Clayton Kershaw finally got his first win against the Yankees in his Hall of Fame career thanks to a 4-for-4 night from Mookie Betts.
And there's a shot to left and deep headed toward the Dodger bullpen. It's gone! Mookie Betts is on a tear. This is his second home run of the night.
The call on AM 570 LA Sports. One of the 2 solo shots for Mookie Betts on the night, 8-4 the final. The Orioles also in California visiting the Giants, tied at 2. Entering the 7th, Gunnar Henderson would send a solo shot to the Cove.
And Gunnar cracks this. Deep right field it goes. Way back there. And that baby is into McCovey Cove.
WBAL on the call. The Orioles would hold on to win 3-2 to open that series. This is ABC Sports.
Happy Father's Day from Birch Creek Golf Course. For Dad this Father's Day, our 10 rounds of 9 holes punch passes are on sale. Our FootJoy golf shoes and golf shirts are also on sale for Father's Day. Or get Dad a gift certificate that can be used for golf or golf lessons from our PGA teaching staff. So for Dad this Father's Day, I invite you to choose Birch Creek Golf Course. And happy Father's Day from your friends at Birch Creek.
From supporting local food banks to raising money for those in need, our listeners know they can count on News Talk KVNU to lend a helping hand. Like thousands of AM radio stations across the country, we take seriously our commitment to our listeners and our community. We'd love to hear what you value most about AM radio. We want AM radio to be available for years to come. So please text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars.
From gardening to landscaping, The Garden Guide with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM at 102.1 FM.
And we welcome you back to the show on this beautiful sunny Saturday morning. As Bill was mentioning in that news break, we've got a chance of some isolated showers, thunderstorms each afternoon through the weekend, but so far haven't seen a lot of rain, although some areas, I know Smithfield Thursday night just got dumped on, and we would have liked to have seen some of that water in other parts of the valley.
And we got a little sprinkle, and that was about it. So
just kind of depends on where you're at over the next couple of days. But as we've been talking about, this is the weekend to plant, and if you're like me and last weekend you were playing with the family and it was Memorial Day and you thought, I should have planted the garden, it's not too late, right?
It is not too late. In fact, most people are behind still catching up with all the things that they couldn't do in March and April, and so it's hard to catch up and do that. But I'm looking at the 10-day forecast, and it's like 70s, 70s, 70s. Oh, maybe an 80, But
perfect.
It's like so nice. Yeah. It doesn't get any better for transplanting plants or for planting your tomatoes or getting your flower beds planted. It's like the weather's perfect, and we've got a great selection of flowers, vegetables, trees, shrubs, and especially fruit trees at Anderson Seed and Garden. So greenhouses are looking great. Parking lots full of plants. And we've been selling peonies like mad because they were all in bloom. They look so good. So everybody's like buying the peonies up. So they look really good.
Okay.
Really nice.
Now, Vicki was asking just before we went into the bottom of the hour break about hanging baskets. And you'd mentioned that at Anderson Seed and Garden had just finished completing all of the hanging baskets along Main Street.
On Main Street, yes. So last week we got the hanging baskets set up on Main Street, and this week we took all the flowers out of the flower beds on Center Street and replaced them with like our summertime annual flowers, so they'll bloom and look great for the rest of the year. We took the pansies out, and the pansies are nice to be able to plant early. Normally we get them planted in March. This year we didn't get them planted until the last week of April.
Because of the weather.
Because of the weather. And so they only had a month to grow, and they turned out so gorgeous. Like the pansies turned out really, really nice this year. But when it starts to get hot, they just will decline, and so we've got to take those out, got to get them moved to a shadier location, and we planted all the new flowers out in the flower beds. So what we do is we'll take those flower beds, and we've got a really nice soil mix in there. So it's a mix of highly nutritious potting soil. It's called Ocean Forest that we get from Fox Farm, and Ocean Forest has a lot of natural fertilizers and things in there from ocean products.
Okay.
From ocean products. But we mix it in with the salamander soil. And the salamander soil is really high in coconut coir. And the coconut coir holds moisture like crazy. So we kind of do a mix of both. And then you get this really light, fluffy, nice soil. And so we took those flower beds, we pulled all the pansies out. We just turned the soil over just to loosen it up and break it, because after winter, the soil just kind of gets compacted down so much. And so we turned the soil over, added a little bit more salamander into it, got all the flowers planted, and then we put a slow-release fertilizer in there. It's called ProGrow 365. So we put the 365 in there, and that will basically give them a little bit of fertilizer every time we water for the rest of the summer. It will last basically the entire summer long. It's supposed to last 365 days, but really it'll last for about 4 months when it gets watered that much, maybe 6 months, and so that's a nice slow release fertilizer that's in there. But then we watered everybody with the Kanga Roots, and so all the plants that we transplanted, they all got watered with Kanga Roots to get the root system going. And this is what we did with the pansies when we planted them literally 4.5 weeks ago. And when we dug those pansies up, the root systems had, I wouldn't say just like tripled, but they were more like quintupled. Yeah, it's like they were 5 times bigger than they were when we planted them. So like think about how big those little teeny plugs are when you first plant them. They're only maybe like an inch across and an inch and a half, maybe 2 inches long. And some of these were 5-6 inches in diameter.
Wow.
Yeah, so the root system had grown that much.
Just from over a month?
In a month, yeah. So the plants were just really growing like crazy. And so the Kanga Roots, we'll hit them with the Kanga Roots to start off with, the ProGrow 365, and then to really make not the hanging baskets, but the planters look amazing, and we do the same thing with the hanging baskets, is our fertilizer regimen is twice a week. And so we feed them twice a week. And I know this is something we've talked about on the show before, but it's like, how often do you like to eat? More
once
than,
a week or
once a week
a
or
day?
all the time, yeah. And the plants like to eat all the time as well too. So we are consistently feeding them. And so usually on Tuesdays we'll do like a balanced fertilizer with a little bit higher nitrogen in it, and then on Fridays we'll fertilize with a higher phosphorus, higher potassium fertilizer to get them to bloom. And so we use a couple different products, but Bicor donates amazing product like the Pro Bloom and also the All Purpose to us to utilize on the hanging baskets on Main Street, and it just makes them bloom and bloom and bloom and cascade out of those planters. And so last year we put those pots up and they looked exactly like they do right now. And by the end of the season, they were 4 feet across and drooping 3 feet down, and that's how big they get. But it's because we fertilize so consistently. So if you want your hanging baskets and your flower beds to look really, really, really good, you've got to fertilize more frequently than what you're doing, and you don't have to do that. It's like I had somebody in the other day. They're like, the fertilizer's kind of expensive. It's like I don't know if I want to spend that much money for it. It's like, that's okay. You don't have to, but if you really want your plants to perform and to look really good, you got to feed them, and you got to feed them really consistently. So we do Tuesdays and Fridays, and we mix a soil penetrant in there. It's called Easy Wet, and the Easy Wet makes it so that the soil will absorb and hydrate all the way through. So if you use the Easy Wet about every 2 to 3 weeks throughout the summer, your baskets won't dry out as fast. When you water, the water is absorbed into the soil instead of just running out the bottom of the pot. And so you'll get a lot better absorption and retention on the water. And it's not that you won't have to water every day, because you'll probably still have to water every day. But when you water, your water hydrates the soil up all the way through instead of just running down the outside or the sides of the pot where the soil has pulled away from the side of the pot. The water is going to find the path of least resistance and just go right down it. And if your soil dries out, it desiccates and it pulls away from the side of the pot as it shrinks. And then there's a gap now between the soil and the pot, and that's where the water goes and just like runs right out the bottom. And you think, okay, the pot's hydrated up because the water's running out the bottom, when it's only hydrated up just the exterior part of the soil, and the interior is dry where the root system is. So the Easy Wet really helps take care of that problem. And so Easy Wet, fertilize twice a week, use different fertilizers, more of an all-purpose to really get them to cascade, and then high phosphorus to get them to bloom and bloom and bloom, and then away you go. Yeah, okay. And occasionally we'll use the compost tea on them just to perk those baskets back up. But that's what we do on the hanging baskets. We do essentially the same thing with the flower beds to get them looking really good in a short amount of time. So we'll take pictures of the beds like today. And there's like gaps of space in between the plants where there's like huge empty spots. And in 2 weeks, you'll see that the plants are filled in. And by the 4th of July, they're just like blooming and going crazy. And by the end of the summer, they're crawling all over the sidewalk.
Yeah. So now when it comes to the compost tea, we had talked about over the last couple of weeks that we're starting to run low on containers. Do you still have a few?
We are down to our last batch of gallons, and so probably what we've got out on the shelves, and we should restock them this morning. So employees, if you're listening, restock
the
compost tea containers, please, because that's all we've got. I think what we've got on the shelf is going to be it, and then we'll just be brewing it all summer long, so don't miss out if you haven't got your compost tea yet. Make sure and get in and get your gallon containers. They're refillable all summer long, so you pay for a container and you get free refills for the whole summer. Now, I had a customer in the other day, and he was a little bit annoyed because he had his container from 3 years ago, and we wouldn't do refills for him.
It's every year.
It's once a year, yeah. So you buy the container, you get free refills for this year, not for the foreseeable future. Yeah. And we can recycle those, we can reuse, we can repurpose. And so if you bring in your container from 3 years ago, we'll put a new label on it and everything, but we will charge you for a container.
And then it's good
and
for
then it's
that
good
year.
For the rest of the year, yes. So it's just a little clarification on that. It is good for this year, and then next year you got to get one for 2024, and we will be doing it again next year as well too. So whether it's a 2 gallon, a 2.5 gallon, or whether it's a 1 gallon, we can relabel them and reuse them. And I've got a lot of customers that do that as well too. So that works great because we will run out of 2.5s. We will run out of gallons. If you've got your containers from last year, we can just like slap a new label on it, and and away we go. And the compost tea is just amazing. So we use that on the hanging baskets. We use it in the flower beds. I use it on my tomatoes and my peppers and my squashes and my melons at home as well too, to really get them going. And that's part of our magic formula for the tomatoes if we're planting tomatoes too. But we had a lot of calls the first part of the show, and nobody's called in since.
Phone lines are open now. 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. Everyone was fighting to get in that first half hour of the show, and I know the phone lines were busy for a time and may have even gotten a few busy signals, but they are open now. So again, 753-KVNU or 1-800-369-KVNU.
Maybe they were just waiting to hear the magic formula for the tomatoes.
I think that's probably it, because everybody, including myself, are going to be planting tomatoes this afternoon.
Exactly. So the key to being successful with your tomatoes is depending on how big a pot that they're in. So if they're in a little Pony 4-pack, you got little small plugs, or if you're buying gallon tomatoes, they're in much larger containers. You have to dig big holes for them. So I dig extra wide holes. So I don't dig holes with a trowel for my tomatoes. I dig holes with a shovel. And with the shovel, I will dig at least a 1 foot diameter hole, and I'll go deep as well too. So we're going 8 to 10 inches deep and 12 to 14 inches across for even some of those smaller plants. And I take the soil out of the hole, and then I mix in like a really high quality potting mix with it. So I use our Fertilome organic moisture control potting soil, and I mix that in with the soil that I took out of the hole. And what it does is it just conditions that soil so it has more ability to hold moisture. It's looser, it's lighter, it's fluffier, it doesn't compact down. If you've got clay in your soil, that clay will compact down and get more dense, and it doesn't hold the moisture, it doesn't hold the nutrient as well. So when you mix that soil in with it, and the organic moisture control formula has a lot of coconut coir in it, it breaks the soil up and it keeps it from clumping and clotting and getting really heavy. And so it's critical that you dig extra big holes for your plants. And the tomatoes, it's no exception. Dig big holes, condition the soil. I'll put that really nice soil back in there. I'll plant my tomatoes right into it, and I plant the tomatoes deep. So I'll plant them deep. So if they're a foot tall, I'll plant them so that they're 6 inches tall, because they'll root all along that.
Almost bury them.
Oh yeah, they'll just root all the way along that stem. And the more root system you've got, the bigger the plants will get. So, and then once I get them planted, I do a combination of 3 different products to start off with. So 3 different products. I use the Kangaroots or the Microbrew, whichever one you want to do, because they're very similar. So Kangaroots, I put in the Messina's. They call it universal plant food now, but it used to be the Fertilixer. So we do the Kangaroots, we do the Seedlingers universal plant food, and I put in either the complete disease control from Monterey or the fungicide 5 from Fertilome, because it's the same thing, and it's a biofungicide, so it's got lots of beneficial bacteria in there, and they just eat up diseases like crazy. And so between those 3 products, one to control diseases, so the fungicide 5 or the Monterey complete disease control work on soil-borne diseases as well as foliar diseases, and once you get it introduced to the plant, it stays with the plant for the rest of its life. And so it's kind of like, it works kind of like a mycorrhiza, but it works on diseases instead. So it will fight off diseases like crazy. So I water them with the complete disease control fungicide 5, mix in the Seedlingers, Fertilixer, or universal plant food, and the Kangaroots all at once. And it focuses on the root system. It puts a good balanced nutrition in there, and it's got the disease control. And I water it with that when I first plant it, and then I do it again for the next 2 or 3 waterings to really get that beneficial biology built up into the soil. And then the plants go like crazy. A little bit of tomato and vegetable food around it just to give it a slow release fertilizer for the season, and away they go. And it doesn't take very long, and soon they're growing out the tops of my aquadomes, because I'll put an aquadome on them to help with the early growth and production on the plants. And then tomato cages go in after that. And really by the 4th of July, we've got plants that are 3 feet tall and already setting fruit. And usually by around the 20th, 24th of July, we're harvesting our first ripe tomatoes. So it doesn't take very long. We can have tomatoes in 60 days without too much trouble.
I think one of the keys, for us at least, is you've got to dig that hole.
You got to dig a big hole.
You want to just almost bury those tomato plants. Yep. The farther you bury them, the more they'll establish. Last year, we almost completely took these large plants, and they were about 8 inches, and we just had only about an inch coming up.
Stick it out the top.
Yeah, just the top leaves, and man, those things just took off.
If you focus on getting the root system really healthy and big, all of a sudden you'll have this really healthy and big plant.
Yeah.
And then they're more likely to produce a lot more fruit, and they're more likely to ripen up quicker, and all that stuff. So it's essential that you dig those big holes and then feed them with something that's going to encourage root development. But for us, where we've dealt with a lot of diseases, that disease control is absolutely essential. If you don't do that, then all of a sudden half your plants are dying.
Great tip for planting those tomatoes. So let's go back out to the phones. We have Corey joining us on the line from Hyde Park. Corey, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I had a question. I have a small orchard of about 15 fruit trees, and 3 of them this winter that were fairly young, maybe 2 or 3 years planted in my yard.
Yeah.
They didn't come out of dormancy this winter. One had a little bit of green on it, and I pruned a lot of it back, and just never came out of dormancy. And they're on the south side of my yard, kind of close to a fence, and I noticed the snow stayed there quite a bit longer.
Yeah.
Do you think that the cold winter just kind of took out a lot of trees this year, or do you think it could? Have you heard? I guess what I want to know is have you heard of?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we had. I talked to the extension agent the other day as well too about it, because we've seen a lot of damage on maples as well too, and maples are really, really hardy, and so we had 20 below temperatures for at least a week, and in parts of the valley it hit like into almost 30 below, and a lot of your fruit trees, especially the stone fruits, peaches, apricots, plums, cherries, they are going to get hit hard with that temperature, and that's the case. I was thinking that some of my trees that are a little bit more exposed might have had a lot more damage on them, and we're fortunate that we're down on the island in Logan, and it's a little bit more protected and a little bit warmer, and my trees came out really, really well. But the other parts of the valley, much colder, a lot more exposure, and we're seeing a lot of damage on all those trees, unfortunately.
Okay, and I mean, should I just assume that I'm not getting any life out of them?
It's time to plant. Yeah, it's time to plant some new ones. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right, good to know.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, good luck with your new plantings, Corey.
Sounds similar to what Zach was talking about the first of this hour. A lot of damage to fruit trees.
It depends on where you're at in the valley, too. The more in the center part of the valley, the colder it gets. The cold just kind of settles down in there. But then you've got Mendon and Wellsville and, along that western part of the valley, it definitely gets much colder. You're almost 8 to 10 degrees colder than other parts of the east side of the valley. And you have some of those fruit trees just won't make it. They won't make it.
Really
tough. That kind of temperature. So, okay, who's up
well,
next?
Janae is joining us on the line from River Heights. Janae, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Question about cherry tomatoes. I used to love the Sweet Baby Girl, but I haven't been able to find those for the last several years.
No.
Just wondering if there are some that are similar in taste, size.
Yes. I do have some Sweet Baby Girl seed at the store, but it is like the last seed that I am aware of in the country because we bought a bunch of it when they discontinued it, and so I can still get Sweet Baby Girls at my house. In fact, I had an extra one until like Thursday. Otherwise, I'd share it with you. Sweet Million is a good option. The Sweet 100s are really good as well, too, but the Sweet Baby Girl was like our favorite red cherry tomato, so we got as much seed as we could get, and I still have it, and it's still germinating pretty well, but it's pelletized, and so you got to really hydrate it up to get it to germinate properly. We've noticed that it's hard to get to germ when it's got that coating on it, but Sweet Million is really, really close to it, so that would be a great option, and I have those seeds as well too.
Okay, is it too late to plant tomato
from seed? It's going to be pretty late for this year, but I have had the Sweet Million, I have had the Sweet 100, I have had the Super Sweet 100 in stock, and so those would all three be good options. And Sun Sugar is one that we always plant as well too. Sun Sugar.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And last year, I think that I got one called Super Sweet.
Yeah.
With the 2 supers. Is that something that you guys still have, or is it, the same type of thing as Super Sweet?
It should be the Super Sweet 100. And so, that's what I would suspect it is. And I have had those. And to be honest, I don't know what cherry tomatoes we have in stock at the moment, but we have had a lot of those varieties. So.
Okay. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Janae. Have a great weekend. All right.
You too.
Can we sneak one more in, Will?
Let's try to do it. We've got 2 more minutes, and Gordon's joining us on the line. Gordon, welcome to the show.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, Gordon.
Hey, Mark. You were just talking about planting your tomatoes deep.
Yes.
Can I do the same thing with my hummingbird mints?
Good question. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, and I didn't dare do it without checking with you.
The tomatoes are unique. That all those little hairs that are along the stem, they just turn into roots. But I don't think it's going to happen on the mint. But the mint's really aggressive, and it just spreads like crazy all over anyway. So.
Okay. Well, and I got 2 different ones. A really pretty red one that's a little shorter, but these purple ones are incredibly tall and they're beautiful.
Yeah.
But I was just a little worried about them being stable. I'm just going to put a little something around it so they don't wave around in the
That would be a
wind.
good idea. And some of the plants, if you plant them too deep, it causes collar rot and causes other problems. But with the tomatoes, they'll just like root like crazy along there. I just remember as a kid, Dad would bring like the big straggly plants home that nobody wanted, and he'd plant them, and he'd dig a hole, but he'd dig more of a trench instead of a hole, and he'd put the root system in, and then he'd lay it on its side, and then he'd just like kind of turn the last little bit of the tomato up and stick it up above the soil, and he'd bury it all along the stem, but he'd bury it horizontal instead of vertical. And man, his plants would just get huge. And it's like, Dad, can you really do that? It's like, yep, just plant them just like this. And he just kind of turned that tip and point it straight up and just cover the rest of the plant up. And I mean, these are big, leggy, long tomatoes that nobody would buy at the store. And Dad would just take them home, and he'd turn them into amazing plants and lots of production. So,
all right,
works great.
Well, and I wanted to quickly report on my cedar oil.
Yes.
We came back from Idaho after Memorial Day, and it was like just a horde of mosquitoes. And so I ran in the next day, grabbed cedar oil, put it down fairly heavy, And 2 nights later, I sat out on my swing and I swatted one mosquito, and that was it.
Oh, that's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear. So
you didn't even have to hold still; they were nailing you as you walked around.
Yeah. So awesome.
Thank heavens for cedar oil.
Thank you for the heads up and the information, Gordon. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Good to talk to you.
Have a great weekend.
All right, that's going to finish it up for the show, Mark.
It is. It's amazing.
Just a quick reminder. Stop by the store today. Great deal on pansies.
Yep, pansies, and we've got amazing trees and shrubs and perennials that just came in this week. So it's a great weekend to come into Anderson Seed and Garden. Got a full staff there to help you with your gardening problems and questions, and we're just excited for a great weekend. So come see us at Anderson's, and we'll be back next week with another edition of the Garden Guide.
News and talk around the clock.
I listen to you all the time.
News Talk KVNU Logan, 610 a.m. at 1.